Next for the agency are the Artemis missions, and that's where we're going to go back to the moon for the first time in over 50 years and have a sustained presence on the moon, and then use that as kind of a test bed in hopes of getting to Mars someday. And so to do that, you're going to need some power, and a good, reliable source of power is nuclear, and so that is why it's being looked at right now. You can have nuclear in shallow craters where there might be some water in the form of ice. Nuclear also helps you get through those really long lunar nights, which are about 14.5 Earth days long. And so it's just a really great, reliable source of power. That is probably the primary push for fission surface power. Now there are other potential stakeholders with the agency right now. We are looking at nuclear electric propulsion. And so a lot of the investments that we're making with fission surface power are directly applicable for nuclear electric propulsion systems. And so that is an alternate use of the technologies that we're looking at for fission surface is the application for nuclear electric propulsion. And that would be to a couple things, deep space missions, but then also maybe an efficient way to get to Mars.
Absolutely. From the commercial side. And Doug, I'd like to start with you. What government demand signals are you seeing for nuclear technologies in the space domain? And do you see those signals right now as worthy of pursuit?
Okay, so that's a great question. I left SpaceX in 2019 after being there 12 years to found Radiant. And Radiant's focus is to be a nuclear reactor technology developer for portable mass-produced reactors. We're totally focused on Earth right now. The reason I founded the company is I didn't think there was an entity out there you could get a reactor from on time and at a reasonable budget so that you could just integrate it into a space vehicle. That was my interest when I was at SpaceX and looking at how you colonize Mars, how you use that 100-ton payload capacity that Starship has, which is like the heaviest lift capability we have on Earth. That's like a C-17 heavy military transport vehicle, but straight up and off, right, to another world. So I set out to build Radiant, focused around building what we call the Kaleidos reactor. It's a 1 megawatt containerized system, not a space reactor, but I have a huge passion for space, and it's what brought me to nuclear, was looking at colonizing Mars and how you could actually do it. We need megawatts there to actually do fuel production. If you want to be able to fly back on the next home and transfer opportunity just 2 years later. I like that there's newfound government interest from our government. I did respond to the fission surface power RFI, as Lindsay knows. But as a company, we have to achieve our goals, and our biggest one is build a reactor at full scale by 2026. It's just 16 months from now. I need to have a fuel reactor built to the required quality levels and through the licensing to operate the lab. So I'm trying to keep all things, all dollars, all people, all minutes focused on that effort only. But I have a huge passion for space. I absolutely want to get into it afterwards. That's why I'm really glad to be here, to be present at this panel and talk about it a little bit. But I think we need to do more to actually get to answering your question. I'm doing my part. I'm building a company that will be able to mass produce, 10 to 20, 10 kilowatt and up space reactors in the near term. So not that far away. We could, if we wanted, we could have that in 2030. We could have a 10 per year production capability from Radiant alone.
It'd be great to see. And Tyler, I kind of want to pose you the same question. The government demand signals that you're seeing, is that sufficient right now for you to pursue a commercial opportunity in the space domain?
We are seeing government demand come from both NASA and the Department of Defense. And NASA is more focused on the CLPS missions, Artemis focus, lunar surface focus, and that blends over into commercial as well. 2 machines landed on the moon this February. They lasted 7 days and then froze to death in the 14 days when it was negative 250 degrees and dark. And if you want to start to see these scientific missions last for longer than that, for years at a time ideally, they need a way to have cheap electricity independent of the sun, so that during those 14 days of darkness, they can stay alive and eventually thrive during those times. And we are seeing demand from NASA for that. We actually last year won a $15 million contract from NASA as a part of the Tip Point solicitation to build that, working with Intuitive Machines and Blue Origin to enable their future landers, rovers, broader mobility systems to operate during the lunar nights, operate in permanently shadowed regions, and build a sustainable lunar economy that we all want to exist in the future. Now, the timing of that is the question. And can you build a business purely on building a nuclear power system for the moon? I think that is an open question, and fortunately it is one of our sub-markets. But we need to see these successful missions and landings lead to 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 missions to the lunar surface to really build that business case. Now you're also seeing demands come from the Department of Defense. And the DoD across the board, from nuclear thermal propulsion, nuclear electric propulsion, and radioisotope-based systems, is investing in space nuclear. From Draco, the Jetsons program, we also have an award with the Space Force to build a radioisotope-powered small spacecraft that can increase the mobility of these platforms. And you're seeing interest for both orbital uses of increasing the mobility of spacecrafts, and also in cislunar environments to be able to move more quickly through cislunar and maintain certain cislunar orbits. Now again, what you're seeing there are these initial pilot contracts for pilot demonstrations. How and when the Space Force will begin to procure space nuclear technologies at scale, I think there's still a question there that also can make it challenging to close that business case purely on that market alone. We're seeing some push from Congress. In this year's Senate Appropriations Bill, there was a very significant plus up for space nuclear. And part of that was to start to spend money on not just these pilot demonstrations, but how we procure the second, third of a kind systems to allow these businesses to invest their capital and make the business case to really build and deploy these technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. When you see these demands, there's still work to be done. Respond.
I don't know, Tyler maybe has a better answer. I mean, I'm trying to delay of game for doing a lot of fission reactor work, right? Just build a company that can do that. But there are folks who have made a lot of progress, like the Kilopower guys out of Lano on fission reactors, sort of getting that rekindled and operating as a system like less than 10 years ago.